Howdy everybody, Floyd again, welcome back. Today we'll talk about a little known step that a lot of people skip when they're getting ready to crank an old motorcycle up that's been dormant. We're going to adjust the valves on this 71 CL175. I'll show you how to do that on the right side. It's a very important step because if a valve is too tight, it could burn. If it's too loose, the engine will rattle, of course, but it's still better for it to be too loose than too tight. But if they're too tight, it causes problems. It may not even crank up. It might lose compression. So one of the things you do is to check the valve adjustment. On this CL175, it calls for... But before we go into the rest of this video, let me go ahead and make a clarification I noticed when I was editing the video. And I was calling out the valve lash specs. I said 0.05 at one time, and I said 0.005 at another time. The correct answer is 0.05 millimeters. I should have been specific. I should have said 0.05 millimeters, which if you only have feeler gauges Barton standard, that is 0.002 inches. So anyhow, my apologies for any confusion on that. And since I'm interrupting the video anyway, this is a good time to remind you to use discount code PSYCHO1 at WeBike Japan, your #1 source for OEM and custom parts for Japanese, European, and even some stuff for American motorcycles. Fantastic, unique products you won't find anywhere else at japan.webike.net. Use code PSYCHO1. Gauge right here. And we're going to get into it and see it. I already checked the left side. I'm going to tell you that I checked the left side. They were both just a tiny bit too tight. The first step is you take the timing cover off. I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. And I'll show you how to line up the timing marks. Then you take these covers off, which are 19 millimeter. Now I had already previously used a 6-point socket and a breaker bar to loosen these because they were that tight. You want to use a 6-point socket. A very good, high quality, tight fitting 6-point socket for old stock covers like these. Otherwise, you may ring them off. And while they are available from the aftermarket, it's kind of a pain to have to source them. Let's come in a little closer here so you can see what I'm doing. I've already removed spark plugs on a multi-cylinder engine especially. You need to remove all the spark plugs. Then we will push down on the kickstarter until the intake valve right here, you'll see the intake valve go down and come back up. That indicates that it's on the compression struggle. Then you will come around here and line up the top dead center mark. That one is tight. You can always verify that your piston is at top dead center. Use a wooden skewer or something like this and reach into the hole This one's got a lot of dirt around it. But yeah, the piston is at top dead center. So now we will begin to adjust the valve lash. We'll start with the exhaust. Okay, I'm actually using the specialty valve lash adjustment tool. Here I got mine from Motion, but anyhow, it's an 8mm socket with a square head to fit the adjusters on this particular old Honda. Loosened up a hair. Now let's put the gauge in. Okay, the gauge is sliding in. Here's the deal, people say, how much to adjust it? Talk about adjusting it tight and adjusting it loose. Here's what you want. If it says 0.05, you want it to be 0.05. You don't want to be able to get a 0.06 in it. You also need to, after you tighten it down, keep checking the adjustment for. You should be able to just barely get the feeler gauge in there without having to force it. But it should still be tight enough that the next size larger won't fit. Make sure it's snug. If you have the air, if you want to be cautious, it's better for it to be a little bit too loose than for it to be a little bit too tight. Now, most bikes you'll see have a larger lash on the exhaust valve in the intake, but on these old Hondas, a lot of them have the same. This particular model calls for the same lash, and yes, I have the factory service manual. I downloaded it to my computer. It's all over the internet. You can find it most anywhere that specializes in Honda twins. That's a little bit tight. And it's snugged up. Check it again. Yep. And so actually here, it goes in fairly easy. One way is to listen to it. It actually makes a little bit of a squeaking sound. I don't know if the camera will pick it up or not, but make sure it's tightened up. Here, let me grab this camera and put it down in that hole. So if you're an absolute beginner, you can see what I'm adjusting on. Let me go get a light. That'll make this even better. For you guys that know what you're doing or have some idea, don't laugh at me showing people these seemingly basic steps. But you see where the feeler gauge is running between the adjuster and the top of the valve. It's a very tight fit on the feeler gauge. Like I say, if you're not sure if you've got it tight enough, The next size larger feeler gauge shouldn't fit in it. But that being said, it's safer for the valve and for the engine to have it a little bit loose than to have it too tight. So anyhow, that takes care of those two things. I'm going to stick these covers back on and put the spark plugs back in the hole. And be careful, you don't want to cross thread anything or over tighten anything. A lot of people think you need to jack these things down to keep them from leaking or to keep them from shaking off. But you really don't want to overdo it. Well, now you know how to take care of one of the most important steps of bringing an old motorcycle back to life after a long hibernation. Check the valve lash. It'll give you a good indication of the engine's condition too. The more you know about your engine, the better off you'll be. So anyhow, now I'm going to vacuum some of the trash out of this engine and around this spark plug hole before I put the spark plugs back in it. And then, when you see me again, we'll be working on the fuel system. So in the meantime, keep riding, keep wrenching, stay crazy.